You're not just drawing like a normal goal, you're drawing a dream. It increases your opportunity to cut through the noise and achieve that goal in a distracting world. Just speaking to your brain in its first language, which is visual. The visual piece is one of the first languages of the brain. And when you do that, you are helping your brain to see this is where we're going. The two first languages of the brain are images and sensory associations. And so we use both of those in the think time process. We get really clear on the visual piece and then feel them. And so those are the first two languages of the brain that we really engage. Welcome to Hyperfocus and High Performance with Christine Howe, where we explore how you can work with your brain, build your dreams, and live on purpose with more clarity, creativity, and presence. Okay, Bekah, here we are.
Hi, Christine. It's great to see you.
I'm so glad to see you. So this is the part of the podcast is brand new, and I get to bring you into the conversation and share your observations, your thoughts, and I have a feeling you're going to pull some out of me as well about what it really means to live the life with a think time planner and have that as part of your actual planning strategy. And what we want to do here for you guys listening in is to give you just a very clear picture of what is it actually in a day in the life of someone using think time as your goal achievement strategy, and perhaps why it might be different than something else, and why we think it's the best thing on the market to try for you.
Yeah.
And so welcome, Bekah.
Thank you. It's great to be here. It's fun to get a chance to come in and talk a little bit about using it, because it's been almost 6 years now. I don't know if you realize that I bought my first think time almost 6 years ago, and I haven't stopped buying them and using them since then.
That's amazing. And is there any other program that you had that had like stuck with you that long before this?
It's a good question. Probably not for that long. Nothing for that long. There's a few things I've done maybe that have been helpful, but yeah, this one's been helpful and long-term. And I have no intention of putting it down because it's working for me. So it's awesome.
I've always said that if I close think time, I have to like print as many years as I want to be alive, because I just can't not from now on. And I think that's the case. I ran into somebody at a conference who used think time for her dissertation years ago that I can't not plan with color anymore. I have to. And so she had another big goal coming up, and she stopped by my booth and grabbed another think time, and we got caught up a little bit. But it's one of those things that once you learn these little tweaks, it's really, really hard to go back. So I think in this one, this first discussion is about the dreams. And so this is probably, to me, the breakthrough for my life. And I shared about it in this last episode. And there's this dreaming piece and there's this drawing piece. So there's this like double, I feel like it's a 1-2 punch of really getting clear on the dream and then actually drawing it. Do you have any desire to share what your transition was like when you started drawing your dreams, and what that felt like, what changed, what unlocks happened when that very, very, very simple, free, there's no personality change, there's no circumstance change, there's no medication change. This is a very, very, very easy technique anyone can use anywhere in the world immediately. So when you started drawing your dreams, what was the transformation that happened for you?
So when I first started, I would say it felt very weird to me, because my brain wanted to say, well, you don't know how to draw. Well, this isn't going to work for you. Like that immediate, it actually was like a pushback at first, but I trusted the process and started doing it. And there's just this thing that happens where I think it works for brains like ours. We have this in common. We know, because we've talked about this so many times, that just saying that you're going to do something sometimes doesn't register. It's like in one ear and out the other for yourself. And there's something about putting pen to paper or pencil to paper, and then that additional level of adding color and giving some life to it, is that all of a sudden our brains can see it, right? Yeah, there's those great colors. So all of a sudden our brains can see it in a different way, and it gives us something to aim toward. And so it could be really simple. The easiest ones sometimes to kind of talk about are like, okay, I drew how I wanted this closet to be organized, something very simple. And it gives your brain something to hold on to, and it just becomes easier. It's like you're already in momentum for doing it because you already know what you want it to look like. I have other dreams that I've been drawing for 6 years that are big dreams that are going to, that may take a really long time to come to fruition. But every time I draw it, I think it reinforces that identity that I'm working toward. So for an example, for me, it's like writing a book. I wouldn't even say it out loud 6 years ago that it was something I wanted to do. It was so buried deep, but it was one that's just been with me my whole life. Now I'm like, oh yes, well I'm working on a concept and I'm working on a book proposal. In my mind, I'm like, okay, that might still take a few years, months, whatever, decades, whatever it takes, but it's real to me now because I've drawn that dream so many times. And so it can go from the really small to the really big. And there's something about the regret piece because in the membership we do this review process. So I'll hear members say things like, well, I drew it and I drew it again, it's not happening. And so that happens sometimes where they're drawing it and then they get disappointed and they draw it again and they get disappointed and they reflect that back and it doesn't get done until it does. And then the celebration is so real because they felt that pain of regret so many times over and over of not seeing it done, that when their brain finally clicked in to know that I really want to do this. I've said this so many times. I'm tired of hearing myself. I'm just going to do it. And then the celebration part on the other side of that is so real. And we do that in the membership too. And we celebrate our wins, which is so fun.
I'd love to introduce you to something I created specifically for brains like yours. Think Time membership is a guided neuroplanning membership designed to help you align with your design, work with your brain, and build your dreams with more clarity, confidence, creativity, and presence. Instead of forcing yourself into systems that don't fit you, you'll learn how to plan in the native, creative language of your brain using my neuroplanning framework. Love your design, then dream, decide, do, review. Inside the membership, you'll join a community of growth-oriented leaders for weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual guided planning experiences, so you'll never have to figure it out all alone. Your membership also includes access to the Think Time Neuroplanner, a whole brain visual planning system designed to help you harness the strengths of your mind instead of constantly fighting against it. And when you join, you'll receive access to the neuroplanning course and tutorials, planning tools and templates, live group coaching, monthly Q&A, and a live onboarding session so you can begin to use the system right away. If you're ready to increase your opportunity to experience more clarity, calm, confidence, creativity, meaningful productivity, and presence while getting more of the right things done in less time with peace, not pressure, visit think-time.com/podcast. I'd love to help you build a life that works with your brain, aligns with your design, and reflects what matters most. That's awesome. I love that ad, the regret piece, because there's a multi-layered approach as the podcast goes on, but like the layers will come out as to how the system was developed, and there's some quirkiness behind me. But but I started with this drawing of the dreams, and then I had already studied productivity for years, trying to like mash it into my brain, and then I can do it. And so once I unlocked this visual part of my brain, and also I'm going to grab this as I say that, this is a time timer to model the visual piece. So I've got like the colors as a piece, the visual, if you use a time timer, this works really well for a lot of people with ADHD because it's visual, and something about the visual piece locks it in for our brains and then allows us to move with clarity. When I gave a speech, and I remember specifically, it was one of my early Think Time talks, I was notorious for going 20 minutes over my talk. So I planned for like 40 minutes and go to 60. And it was just like, people are like, are you finished? And so then I started using the time timer. And I remember giving it a specific talk for a Mary Kay audience. And I finished it to the second. My talk finished at the second when I used a time timer. And I was like, what just happened? Very similar to my awakening in the garage of like, what just happened? Because I knew the way I gave speeches was I was always 30% over. And then when the time timer, I finished it and it goes beep, beep, right what I said. Any questions? So it was just amazing. So there's something very different about the way visual cues work with our brain. But all that to say is with the regret piece, the layers, you set that vision for the ideal. So you're not just drawing like a normal goal, you're drawing a dream. And
Mhm.
so sometimes that's enough. And honestly, often it's enough to draw it. And it helps you to, it increases your opportunity to cut through the noise and achieve that goal in a distracting world. Just speaking to your brain in its first language. The visual piece is one of the first languages of the brain. And when you do that, you are helping your brain to see this is where we're going. Like you would never have someone on your team to help you achieve a goal at work and just never really speak to your teammate in their language, right? And
Mhm.
so you would want to give your same courtesy to your brain. I kind of
Mhm.
think about it like that. So if you had someone who spoke Spanish or French on your team, you're not going to speak to them in English and say, you just translate this and then get it. You can see the clunkiness of that. And so the two first languages of the brain are images and sensory associations. And so we use both of those in the think time process. We get really clear on the visual piece and then feel them. But if that doesn't work enough, then we have other productivity methods to go underneath it and say, well, if that's your goal, what's crowding it out? And then we'll talk about that in another podcast very soon. But you go and find out if that is still my goal, I've drawn it 6 times and it hasn't happened. What am I missing here? And then you can problem solve around it. So yeah, that's a great. What do you see like? I mean, there's a lot of resistance to drawing. I mean, it's almost like, hi, would you like to be in third grade again? How you're going to become your next
Yeah.
high level of yourself.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of resistance, and I've felt it for 10 years with a lot of people.
Yep.
There's a lot of resistance to thinking. There's a lot of resistance to drawing.
Mhm.
And so
Yep.
there's a lot of resistance to trying another planning system. These are all huge objections. How do you see people coming into the membership and overcoming those to develop this new way of goal achievement and dreams?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I guess I would say that it takes a certain level of humility to try anything new and a
Mhm,
certain level of courage, a certain
mhm,
level of trust. So all of these things have to come into play. And you don't need certainty, perfection. You don't need all of those things to start. You literally just need enough courage to show up for the first call or to buy the first planner and watch the first video on how to use it or to come to the first weekly planning session. You just need that little burst of courage and that little bit of like hope. And I
mhm.
think that's where I find so many people get stuck, and maybe where I was so many years ago was that we've given up all hope that things could be any different. And
Ooh, yeah.
so I think that taps into the core of it is a lot of those objections are just protecting us. It's our brain just looking for a way to say, you know what? We've done this before. The bigger we try, the harder we fail. We're not going to go there again. And so our brain is going to come up with a ton of objections, whatever they are. And the truth is that we just need enough hope, enough courage, enough belief, and you can borrow hours if you need to. That's one of my favorite things to think about is like just find someone you can trust and borrow from them for just enough to get started. Because what we see in the membership is people have just enough hope or just enough courage to show up and start. And once they get in the momentum of doing it, they don't quit. I have
Mhm.
people who have been showing up for a year, for 2 years consistently. And just when I think like, oh, maybe that's busy this week and people aren't going to come, all of a sudden the people just start showing up on Zoom again, week after week. And it's so encouraging because I love the process and I will sit there and do it by myself if nobody comes. But I can't even remember the last time that I had a call where nobody came. And
Yeah.
most memberships that I've been in, most meetings and most regular things, people don't show up with that type of consistency. And it's amazing because these are people who, when they started, would tell you that consistency and self-discipline weren't even on their radar. They didn't,
Ooh.
they didn't show up with this skill. They showed up. They found something that is rewarding. They found something that is helpful. They found a community that's supportive. So they found all these things here and they show up because they want to be there, and then it's so the process itself is rewarding. So I would say you just need enough hope, courage, belief to start, and then just trust me, then you just follow the process. It doesn't take a lot of mental energy once you get there. There's not all this discipline because on the calls themselves, it's directed in a good way. It's like, okay, now we're going to do this. Now we're going to move to that. Now we're going to think about this. Now we're going to do that. And every week, that consistency just helps the brain know what to do, and it helps it to show up ready to do the work. So it's prescriptive in the sense that we're like all doing the same thing at the same time, but it's creative and personalized because I'm doing my own planning for my own life, and the other people on the call are doing their own planning for where they are in their lives. So it's this really great balance of, the structure is there, but within that structure, sky's the limit.
There's not a person in the membership that's like another person. Everyone's very different, very different. And people can come in with goals that are very personal to them, and no one else may have the same goal. But the structured thing I love about it is I'm not saying you need to eat, you need to like mark off your 8 cups of water. We're a group of people who don't like to be told what to do. And so that could also be another objection. But the process, and I think anyone who knows me personally knows that my leadership style is very open-handed. Is that fair to say? Like, I remember being in charge of a wedding setup one time in Pennsylvania, and my friend needed someone to like tell everyone what to do, and they asked me to do it. And all the guys afterwards were like, thank you so much for doing that, because most people would just bark us around. And so my style is it's just very open-handed, just guide, and you're always in charge of your decisions. And I've laid out a process that's very research-based. And it step one, step two, we do all the things. You don't have to remember them. You just need to, again, the trust factor is like, I don't want to say trust me because that sounds weird. So the process is just built out of top performance strategies that work. And I didn't get all of them. I got the most effective ones and put them into a simple, easy to apply system. And so that's what you trust. You trust the stuff that works. You don't have to worry about trusting even a person in this case. This is just research-based strategies arranged in a way that works with the human brain, and specifically creative brains that are open to possibilities and creativity, and that are daring and brave and dare to dream and dare to care. And so I always say that the ideal person who will use think time is sensitive enough to care and brave enough to do something about it. Whatever you're noticing in the world, that dream, that goal, this is a group of people who are caring and who really want to make a difference. So when people are thinking about their dreams and their goals, this is the place to bring them into life. Sometimes it's hard to find that place. So the dream is a really fun place. I'm glad we started here.
Just one last question, because I have my own personal experience with it. What do you tell someone, or how do you help them when they show up and they're like, well, I don't know what I want. I might not even know really a lot about who I am. What do you do with that person? How do you help them start to dream?
Well, and that's such a great question, because what I'm discovering is that anecdotally, the people that I'm meeting that love think time, many people were actually not allowed to develop that part of themselves. And so that is not abnormal, and that is not something to stop you from coming in. If that's where you are, I actually show you how to dream. And so I have an entire section of the planner that goes step by step, but I'll share one of the questions that I ask. And it has its roots in creative thinking, but then the more you get into mindful awareness, it's also over there too. So I found it originally from it was a mix of creative thinking and mindfulness, and then some other people that I was reading. The one question that we start with every week, which you know what it is, if there were no obstacles, what is wild success for you? And so you look at that time frame, at that project, whatever you're think timing, and you just say, what is wild success if there were no obstacles? So we just suspend all the critical voices, all the editing out, all of those things that keep us stuck. We just say, you're still there. I'm safe to know that you're here. But what if those weren't true? Then what is it that I want? And that unlocks a lot of people into the dream space. And we have more questions than just that.
Yeah.
But there's a series of opening, and it's like we take people in the dream phase. Again, it's a dream, decide, do, and review process. But as people come in and begin to draw their dreams, we're taking people through different layers of finding their dreams. And the first one is to draw it.
I love that. I would say my experience is very it's very aligned with what you said. I feel like I was one of those people that came in and needed to learn how to use that muscle of my brain of picturing what I really wanted and being able to decipher this is something someone else wants for me versus this is something I want for myself. And so I love that explanation. I think it's so true, and it's something that I get to have fun doing with the members every single week, is kind of exercising that muscle together and seeing people start to develop that sense of agency, that they can have a dream for their own life and start to figure out what that is. So it's just really fun. So I like to say that because I think some people go, well, this is fine. I'm content. I don't hope for anything more than this. And those are the people that I really, really, really want to listen and to just consider that, like, what if you could have something more? What would it be? And then can you consider that maybe this would be the place that you could come and get that support that you need to figure that out and move in that direction? It's a fun thing to think about. So.
And even if it's just an imagination exercise, sometimes that imaginative exercise can get you into a different space where you can imagine it could be possible, even in a creative way, even if you're not ready to take those steps. So just even thinking about things differently unlocks your brain into these different spaces where it can start to inch out into those spaces. So yeah, I love your insight on that. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for showing up, and thank you for being brave to try it when you did at the beginning. So I'm so glad you did.
Well, me too. For sure. I can't imagine not being here still. So thank you.
So today we teased the framework, the dream, decide, do, and review framework. And so next week I'll be sharing and we'll be discussing the Think Time framework and why regular planners, just 99.9% of planners, they're just leaving your best results on the table, and what you can do about it to plan in a way that works with your brain. So we'll see you then. Thanks for joining. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and isn't a substitute for individualized medical, mental health, or professional care. Every brain is different. Results will vary. Thank you for listening to Hyperfocus and High Performance. If today's conversation helped you think differently about how your mind works, I invite you to take the next step. Visit think-time.com/podcast and grab my free training. Why can't I find a planner that works for me? If you've ever felt frustrated, judged, even by yourself, overwhelmed, or simply wondered why everyone seems to be able to follow a system that simply doesn't work for you, you're not alone. In this free training, you'll discover how your brain naturally approaches focus, planning, and productivity, and why many traditional systems were never designed for minds like yours, and whether neuroplanning could help you increase your opportunity to experience more clarity, calm, confidence, creativity, and meaningful progress with peace, not pressure. And if this episode encouraged you, please subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a review so more brilliant, creative ADHD visionaries can discover what's possible. Remember, you don't have to become someone else to do what only you can do, because only you can be who only you can be, and otherwise there will be a hole in history. The path forward is clear. Love your design, then dream, decide, do, review. I'll see you next time.